Hi and welcome to Beyond Mindfulness and Mindset with me, Justine Flower. Today we're going to talk about change, and change can look really simple on paper, but that's not always the case, and it's made up of different elements, and I'm going to talk to you about practical elements and psychological elements. So the practical elements are the processes that are involved with change and being able to understand and intellectualize those processes, if you like. So let's take learning to drive. When you first learn to drive, you need to have the ability to know what order those processes go in. So in order to move off in the car, you need to dip the clutch, you need to put the car into gear, and then you need to lift the clutch and wait for the biting point. And at that point, at the biting point, when you're ready to move off, you then need to check your mirrors to make sure it's safe to move off, push down on the accelerator a bit, and then move your clutch foot up so you can accelerate off in a smooth fashion. You can't do that in any other order. You have to do it in that order. So that's one part, the processes that are involved. And then the second part is the knowledge that you need. So if we keep with the same example, you may see road signs whilst you are driving and you're new to driving that are familiar to you in that you have a good idea of what they mean. But you may see road signs that you don't know. And that's what I mean by the knowledge that you might need to know. You might need to know what they mean in order to be able to drive safely and adhere to the rules of the road. So that's the practical side. Now I want to talk to you about the psychological side. So part of this is not having automated processes in place. And what I mean by that is when you have habits, the habits that you want to move away from, sometimes those are already automated. And for instance, an automated habit would be making a cup of tea. You don't have to have a lot of thinking around that. You just go in there, sort the kettle out, whatever you're having out and make it, you're done. However, if you've never made a cup of tea, you may need instructions as to each part of that process. So you would say, go and check the kettle's got water in, the water hasn't got kettle in, take the lid off, go to the sink, go to the cold water, put cold water in it, just enough to make your drink, switch the tap off, shut the lid, put it back on its stand, switch it on, wait till it boils, and so on and so on. And eventually, after making so many cups of tea, that will become automated. And there's a lot of brain power involved in activities that you are not familiar with, and that can cause added stress into your day. So that's one element of the psychological. And then the second element is your thoughts, the feelings that you have, and the emotions that come with that change. And your thoughts can be tricky in that you may have, you may get on the self-sabotage thought train, or you may get on the this is difficult thought train, or you may get on the I really can't do this, I've tried it before and it hasn't worked thought train. And that can really make the change difficult for you. And it can also invoke some powerful feelings behind that, which absolutely makes it seem like you can't make that change, or it's difficult, or it's hard, or if you make this change, you are lacking for some reason. Not personally lacking, but you're going to miss out, if you like. So there's that. And psychology, the psychological elements of this are really key to making that change. And yet the practical side is, for most people, most of my clients, is usually easier to do than the psychological side of change. But if you master the psychological side, everything else will just become easier, much, much easier. And so we don't know how long change will take. And therein lies some of the problem, because it allows us time to self-sabotage before new habits are formed. But also in times where you may feel really stressed, or you may have lots and lots going on and you're really super busy, then your head is caught up in lots of things to think about. And it's at those times when you can just default to your old habits, because it's easier. It involves less brain power. You don't have to think about how to put into place these new things. And of course, when you are trying to build new habits, the effort that is involved for you to learn the process, learn the knowledge behind it, and then constantly repeating that action until it becomes habits can be quite time consuming for you. So there's all of those things. And I'm just going to give you one quick example of how those elements come together in a specific change. So let's talk about losing weight. And we'll go through the practical side of that first of all. So the practical side is you may need to put some processes in place to do that. You may need to not go to the supermarket because you see things that tempt you. So you may need to put the process that you get your food delivered, say. The knowledge behind that, knowing which foods to eat and when, which foods make you hungry in an hour, all of those things, which meals you can make that are healthy instead of the meals that you used to make. So that's the knowledge behind it, if you like. And here's the psychology. Not having processes in place. So, when you're really hungry and you go to the kitchen and there's, no proper food there, and then you'll just reach for the chocolate or reach for the snacks. However, if you put processes in place, like for instance, you make 5 portions of food the night before, your family's only going to eat 4, you keep the next one for the extra one for your lunch the next day. So when that happens, when you go to the kitchen and you're starving, well, you've actually got food there ready made. You don't have to do a lot to it to make that healthy choice. And then the thoughts and feelings and emotions you have around it. So whether you've dieted before, whether you may feel that you have that you are lacking, that you are missing out, that you're having thoughts that you'll never be able to eat chocolate again, or this is awful, how difficult it is. That sort of difficult part of the transition period. And those can always trip you up, because you might have people who say, oh, just go on, one will be fine. But you know that if you have one biscuit, you'll be troughing through the whole packet before you've even thought about it, because that is an old habit that you want to get rid of. So what I'd like you to do over the next 2 weeks for this part of the newsletter is I'd like you to think about how you can break that process down, that change process down into the practical and psychological elements, and what you can do in respect to your change and those elements, what you can do to make it easier for yourself. I'm really interested in hearing, how that's worked for you, and what happened to your change as a result of that. So I'd love to hear your comments. But I'd like to also now thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.